So that's over, trade and commerce is over, right? And now we need to see some other things like, and there were some minor aspects that also could be seen for Indus Valley civilization, and such as I just told you about use of writing, right? So I think as far as this use of writing is concerned, so one thing that you must be you might have noticed that there are few factual details, right, and that is written even in the notes also. But if we'll try to analyze this use of script among the IVC or among the Harappans, then we need to understand few things, right? So you just write a small paragraph on the nature and the use of writing. Any information that do you have on writing? Anything that you remember? Suppose you are supposed to write. What are the few terms which have been normally associated with Indus Valley script? Pictographic, right? And what is the meaning of pictographic? So basically they were using certain symbols, right? And just by putting those symbols they carried the complete idea, right? So somehow it is similar to the shorthand writing. As we are writing this shorthand, I hope you all must be aware of the shorthand writing. So that writing was nothing like but the shorthand writing, and somehow they used to carry it, the whole idea. And it seems that it was a sort of writing which is related to shorthand writing, right? So this is pictographic is one term which has been associated with it. What else?
Seals.
No, I'm not asking about that. I'm simply asking the characters or the terms used for. Okay, so I just told you the another thing which is important. Yeah, that is regarding this. I just told you bostrofedon, right? So bostrofedon, what is this bostrofedon? So normally, exactly, left to right to left, right? So basically they were writing in a way that the first from first from left to right, and the second from right to left, right? So it's a sort of writing which goes in opposite directions, and that is quite unique pattern, as you can understand, like because most of the writings will find either starting from the left side or the or the right side, but somehow both the patterns have been adopted by this IVC. So that's the second term which has been used. While, and how do you say that it was from left to right? हमें कैसे पता चलता है? हमने पढ़ा तो है ही नहीं उसको. We haven't deciphered the script. So how can you know that it was written from left to right or right to left?
While writing, when you write from left to right, the space on the right side gets shorter.
Very nice. ठीक है. Suppose this is the plate where we are supposed to we are writing something. Suppose this is the any sort of surface. So mostly you will find single line writing in IVC script. So you'll find if they are writing, they have started writing from this way. So at the end they just try to fit the rest of the stuff in a shorter space, and it seems they were actually, this is not the pattern. This is the pattern, right? So at this on the left side you will find they have just tried to fit their content at the end. So, and that is why it seems they were writing most of the they were beginning their writing from right to left, and then if they are coming to the next sentence, then they were they have adopted the opposite way. There's another term which has been used for it, that is logosyllabic, right? So logosyllabic is same to that pictographic, right? So that's the same meaning. So these are certain things, and apart from that, I hope you remember that what are the artifacts where we have found the scripts, the Harappan scripts. Tell me, what are the? Sorry, tab, terracotta. Normally we find certain tabs, right, and in those tabs we'll find writings of Indus Valley civilization or the Harappans, right? So that is one stuff. Seals are the another examples for the Harappan writings, right? Because in most of the seals we'll find that the certain writings are there. So the seals are another stuff. We find certain boards also, right? The boards, they must be used for maybe showing anything like, suppose if they had a workshop, right? So you'll find a board over there. So somehow it was, just depicting the nature or the character of, that particular place. So that might be another, that might be another, sort of example of it. So these are some other stuff, right? Around 400 different examples we do have for the writings of, the scripts of Indus Valley civilization, and mostly it has been said that around 40 to 50 different symbols have been used by them. So that is what we normally know about Indus Valley civilization. Sorry, 26 signs, 26 different signs have been used for depicting the thing. Now, as we haven't deciphered it, right, so we can't say anything very confirmly, but somehow this is the idea that, or more or less this is the idea that we do have, right? Okay, fine. So these are some, factual part that, that could be discussed here. But if suppose you are writing any answers directly or, specifically on the script, so apart from these kind of, informations, what other things that could be put here, that is most important, right? So you just, write a paragraph that should be clubbed with the, basically the information which is there in the notes, nothing else, right? So you write something. The Harappan script is one of the biggest mysteries, in this civilization. It is likely that people living in various parts of the Harappan culture zone spoke different languages and dialects. The writing on the seals was probably the language of the ruling elite. Language of ruling elite. Change the paragraph. Acha, one more thing that you need to understand. Suppose there is a new language which comes up, right? So we are just doing some historical excavations, right? And we just found about a new language. So what would be the best way to study or decipher the script? What do we do? Comparing with the, maybe not. How can you compare the language with the artifacts? Basically, we try to compare the language with the current languages, first pattern, right? The second, we try to compare it with the contemporary languages, right? So the same thing has been even applied to the Indus Valley civilization. So there might be two possibilities. Immediately after that Harappan, right? The earliest script that we do know, that is after the Harappans in India. Script. I just told you, Pali is not a script, it's a dialect. Brahmi. Pali, Prakrit, Ardhamagadi, these all are written in Brahmi script, right? And I hope you remember, I have already told you about the differences between the script and the languages, right? Any language could be, written in different scripts, right? That's the difference. So basically, Pali, Prakrit and Ardhamagadi, they all adopted the same script called as Brahmi, right? So what might be the best way to decipher the script of Harappans? That they would have compared it with the Brahmi, but somehow there is no as such connection between Brahmi and Brahmi and the Harappan script, right? What might be the second alternative? That they try to compare it with the Mesopotamian and the language used in the Persian Egyptian, right? So these were the two contemporary civilizations, and they tried to compare it with that, and somehow there is no comparison. And that's a quite unique thing, because a language that emerges, right, try to get my point, a language that emerges in a particular society and then again disappeared. That's the most interesting thing, because language is such a thing which is normally carried forward, right? Normally any language is being carried forward, right? It's a common trend could be seen among the societies, because the languages which emerge somewhere around 5th, 6th century, like I'm just talking about the regional languages in India, these are still continuing, right, in different formats. Like you talk about the Dravidian languages, or you do talk about the languages being used in North India. These all are continuing. But somehow what happened to the Harappan scripts, that it or the language, that it got completely disappeared, that's a quite unique case, right? And in fact, as now we don't believe on the idea of the decline of the Harappans, right? And one more thing is there, if any language is normally, what kind of pattern could be seen, that there is a story or there is a history of even languages, right? And so normally languages are also having a sort of past and history. So when we try to analyze the the early Harappan cultures, we somehow, although in some of the places we did find some of the examples of writing, but somehow it was not widely scattered, right? That we can say, people have gradually started inventing the language, and you do find that, okay, gradually they have started developing this language, and finally this language came into existence. So if it is not happening, it means that there was some foreign influence, right, or influence of any particular other, any other, society, society or civilization. But that thing is also missing, and that is why it is supposed to be one of the mysterious thing used in, mysterious thing in Harappans, right? And that is why so far no sort of, to say, any conclusive remark has been made on the Harappan scripts. But yes, people are trying, scholars are they are definitely trying very hard to decipher the script of Indus Valley civilization. But once they haven't deciphered it, so various arguments are there, right? Literature. I just told you that they had certain writings, but we cannot, include that. Those writings cannot be included in literature, because literature is coming much late, and only after they have, started, they invented some of such stuff, like, they started, writing on the barch brick side, or the, or copper plates, that's coming very late actually, right? So once we got certain surfaces to write, and then we do find that certain such kind of things are coming. Paper started in India much late, very very late, right? And that is why we initially don't find much examples of writing. As far as IVC scripts are there, so as I told you that certain tablets, the wooden tablets, or we can say about the terracotta tablets, right, or the terracotta cakes basically. So there we do find certain examples of writing, and seals of course, right. But these are not, these cannot be included in literature, because literature is a different thing. Okay, change the paragraph. Normally, the historical languages or the languages used by people in past have been deciphered by comparing it with the languages used in contemporary civilizations, or the languages used in later periods. initially it has been argued that the IVC script, the Harappan scripts did not match with Mesopotamian scripts. With Mesopotamian scripts. Then, full stop, then the Harappan scripts was compared to Aryan Sanskrit, Dravidian languages, and the Munda languages. You understood this Munda languages?
Yes.
Used by tribal belts, right? So in India, whenever you talk about India, right, there might be three possibilities. One is the Sanskrit used by the Aryans. The second was the Dravidian languages. So it begins, from Tamil, and then some other languages such as Kannada and Telugu, right? And the third possibility was about the tribal languages. So normally, as you can understand, the tribals could be seen in the belt of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. So this, communities such as Santhal, Munda and around Santhal, Munda, right? So these were the communities could be seen in this area. They had their own languages. In fact, they have their own languages. So that might be also, a interpretation for this, right? And finally, they tried to compare it with those languages, but somehow no language helped to decipher the Harappan scripts, right? But unfortunately, no Indian language had any kind of similarity with Harappan scripts. But recently, some similarities have been noticed between Harappan script and the script found in Persian Gulf. Maybe in future it could help us. Maybe in future it could help us to understand or to decipher the Harappan script. Decipher the Harappan script. Change the para. Now the third thing which is important, what might be the use of script, right? That is very important to understand, and in fact that's the most important segment that you need to discuss if you are writing any of the answers, right, related to scripts, right? So what do you think, what might be the utility of the scripts? Because if any script cannot be seen or noticed immediately before this mature phase of IVC, and then again it got disappeared after the mature phase of IVC, so that's a unique, that's a actually unique case, and somehow that thing is pretty sure that in fact during this mature phase of IVC they needed something, right? Ultimately they required some sort of method through which they could keep the records, right? Or it could help in the administrative functions, right? So somehow these might be two important the probabilities, because of what they have started using something, or they have started using a script right, and immediately after that mature phase normally it might be possible that they did not require that, and that is where they would have stopped using the scripts, right? So that's one possibility. So you just write down few lines for that. The most important question regarding the Harappan script was what kind of use it had. Mostly the Harappan writings, could be found on seals. Seals must be used by either the merchant and traders, or the ruling elite. Do you remember I told you something regarding that connection between the ruling elite and the seals? I just told you few connection between the ruling elites and the seals. I think if it is about merchant, you can understand, right? That maybe the seals were carrying certain scripts and the symbols, right? So it has been said that it was basically to show or denote that this stuff belongs to any particular company or individual. So that might be one use, and in fact, as a result of that, we can see that it was being used by the merchant community. That might be one possibility. But the another possibility is regarding the ruling elites, right? So for the ruling elites, one day when I was doing this political structure in IVC, I just told you one connection, and I just told you about animals which were seen in IVC. मैक्सिमम यूनिकॉर्न सील, और मैंने कुछ इंटरप्रिटेशन भी दिया था उसका. क्या दिया था? इले सॉरी, हाँ, वो तो आपने हमने उसको रिलेट किया था. वी डिड ट्राई टू रिलेट इट विद द वेदर कंडीशन. सो दैट्स वन. Exactly. I just told you that there might be one possibility where Harappans, not being a single state, there might be multiple states, right? And I just told you if it was about multiple states, so every seal, because normally 10 types of seal could be noticed among the among the civilization. So it has been said that there might be a possibility of multiple states, and each seal represented a different state, right? Whether I just told you for the unicorn seal that it was more frequently found, and that is why we can say that there might be some weak bonding, right? weak bonding among all the regional powers in the states, and somehow they'll be just controlled by some common elite or the common ruling elite, and they were symbolized by the unicorn seeds, right? So somehow it could be associated even with the ruling class, right? So that might be also one of the possibility, right? Okay, continue it. What did you write? Can I see once? Ruling elites. So it can be argued that it was only these sections which were literate and for administrative or mercantile requirements, administrative or mercantile requirements, the writings. Sorry, mercantile means suppose trade and commerce, whatever the businesses they had, so they had to keep their records, and because of what they were using this right. Sometimes even the writing could be noticed. Sometimes the writing could be noticed on pottery. Which suggest a wider use in craft production, and economic transactions of writing. Craft production and what did I tell you? And economic transactions. In writing, of writing. The Dhaulavira signboard may or may not indicate a high level of urban literacy, but it does indicate a civic use of writing. The evidence of common script. All over the Harappan culture zone shows a high level of cultural integration. Cultural integration. just last paragraph, change the paragraph. But the disappearance of this script in the late Harappan period, is a mysterious question for historians. Normally such phenomena is not very common. But it can be assumed that it must be related to the ruling elite or the merchants only. That is why it got completely disappeared with the ruralization of Harappans. Did you get the last point? Right? Of course it must be limited to particular sections, right? And now what happened? Normally they use the script for these purposes, right? Maybe they were just using it for the administration, or they took the help of writing for keeping the records and basically records of their business and trade. And once the business and when business was completely went off, right, and then of course it is true for the ruling elites, because immediately after this mature phase of IVC, we find again a ruralized culture, right? A culture, definitely urbanization is not a prominent feature of that culture, right? So if again it became ruralized or de-urbanized, in that case definitely trade and commerce was not very much required, because I hope you can understand this, the features of the the rural culture, and at the same time definitely they did not require any ruling elites, right? So if it was all about ruralization or regionalization, so somehow they did not require anything as such, and that is where they might have left it completely. And somehow there's another possibility that the common mass was not literate, right? And if the common mass would be literate, in that case they would have continued this a particular feature, right? But as they were not literate, and that is where they could not continue it, right? So that is what, apart from those things, you can mention again you write a note here at the end. Note: the factual information should be supplemented from printed notes. Yeah? The factual information should be supplemented from printed notes. Right?